Oh God, I was dancing. That was so hype. Like, hey, 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 hey. Sorry, that was fantastic. We
Well,
play
thank
that
you.
again just so I can get my dance on. That was wonderful.
You know, when I used to go live, anyone who joined me backstage, I was playing my music. That's kind of how and then I just thought, you know what, like, let's share that. So I made the intro, right? Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the fun, fantastic, and fabulous. And I just realized I don't have the names on. I should probably change that.
Okay. I didn't even notice.
I turn it off when I do my pre-recorded videos, and then I forget to turn it back on, so I apologize.
I didn't even notice.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the wonderful and fantastic and absolutely fabulous Miss Adrian from Red Lentil Healing.
Who all that other things are, but hi, I'm just Adrian from Red Lentil Healing. This is there you go. I haven't done a live in a hot second, right to point. The fabulous and wonderful Kelly from Dozen Cats Tarot. Or tarot, as some people would like. Tomato, tarot, whatever. We're all just here. That's what we're doing.
One time I was on someone's show, and I can't remember whose show it was, and I tried to say tarot like in a funny way, and I called it tarot. You know, like tarot. You know.
Tarots, carrots. Again, we're here. We're here.
We're here.
Everybody's what they're doing. You know, the little flappy disc thingies that have fortunes on them. That's what we're doing.
Friends, we are here, and that is the important bit. And we are here tonight to discuss self-love. I said to Adrian backstage, I couldn't think of a better person to have here as my guest to talk about self-love. When I was first starting out, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, this is honestly, it is an important part of the discussion, I think.
Okay.
So way back in the beginning of time, before Kelly had a channel, Kelly was on Heart and Soul Connected. Ali was doing a series called Resilience in a Time of Fascism and Plague. And I was telling my story about self-isolation and my journey with anxiety, panic disorder, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And Adrian was in the chat, and she was cheering me on from the chat as well as other people. And she said, you know, you start a channel and I'll come to your channel. And Adrian was my very first ever guest. And ever since, she has been a great sense of support. I find her inspirational. I find her positive. I find her very giving, very lovely. And she, in that moment, in that chat, filled me with a feeling of love, right? A feeling of great support. And as I often say, just as a side note, right, the people in the chat, don't ever stop doing what you do by saying hello and waving and asking people how they are, because you never know what's going on in someone's life and the difference that you can make by saying, you know, hello to someone. And that's what Adrian did for me that night. And I'm happy to say that 2+ years after that fact, which is crazy, really, when you think about it.
It is, I know.
You know, that I can reach out to Adrian and say, hey, Adrian, do you want to come and hang out with me on the 11th and talk about self-love? And she's like, absolutely. And that's just a really cool thing. So I'm feeling the love. I hope you feel the love too.
There's so much. It's, you know, something you said is so poignant. We don't know what somebody else is going through. And I had a moment earlier today where I had to think about myself in a way that was interesting. And I had to, in a moment, give myself kudos for something. And I said, you know, regardless of, you know, how badly I feel I've been wronged, I still will show up with grace and compassion most of the time. I try to. Now, I will cuss you out in my head. I will cuss you out behind the scenes. I will call you all kinds of raggedy, dirty, sorry, no good, whatever. But I will still go, okay. And I will still treat you with compassion. And in that moment, I was so glad that I did, because come to find out, things were going really horribly for someone. And I
Right.
was like, wow, it doesn't excuse what happened, but but at least in that moment, my conscience is clear. And I thought about how much self-love it took for me to still show up that way and be polite. And then how much self-love it took for me to still hold compassion for that person. It wasn't love for them, it was love for me, because I said, how would I want to be treated? I'm an imperfect vessel. And my gratitude to the people who showed up for me when I was having moments of not being perfect, I'm honored to be able to do that for somebody else. And that takes a lot of self-love, a lot of reflection, and yeah, just, you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what moment is, that could be their moment of weakness. And how do you show
Absolutely.
up?
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that story, because that is, and I don't care how old we are. A lot of the people in the chat are older than me or younger than me, and it doesn't matter our age. It's a message I feel that we can't be said enough
That's
and
right.
repeated enough.
That's right. I've done a special reading that's going to come out on Valentine's Day, and I had no intention of talking about this, but it seems like a really one of those moments, friends. So it is Valentine's Day message, special Valentine's Day message from Jane Austen. And she fascinates me because she is a woman of, from 1711 is when she was born, which, women were not empowered then. They basically were seen and not heard. And she created this legacy of, 200 years plus of creating some of the greatest, romance novels of all time. She had such an air of confidence. Like, she knew who she was. She knew what she wanted. And although there are many speculations and conspiracies out there about whether she was ever in love, or, whether she ever got married or she was left at the altar, or whatever, there's no conclusive evidence to say that yes, she was, or no, she wasn't. So she never legally married. So she was a woman who understood love for herself and others, and wrote about it, that is still standing the test of time today. And yet she never was in a love match. There is something so cool about that, for lack of a better word, because it speaks to her spirit, right? That she really had this self-confidence and this awareness. She had this empowerment. And the fact that she continues to empower people to this day,
it's a big
is
one.
absolutely astounding. I'm confident that when she published her first 4 books, by the way, she published them under anonymous as the name of the author, that she had no idea that she would affect so many people's lives. And I wrote some of the favorite lines from some of some of the books. And one of the lines struck a chord when you were just talking, and it says, "There are as many forms of love as there are moments in time."
Yes.
That's from the book of Mansfield Park, in case anyone's interested.
That's true.
We can find those moments of love if we look hard enough.
Yes.
Sometimes, though, we are so focused on the thing that we can't see that we don't see the things that are right in front of us, right?
Yep. One of the things, for those of you who are subscribed to my newsletter, the Red Lentil Healing newsletter, I talked about what it's like to look at yourself and to find that love within yourself, and balancing the anahata, which is the heart chakra, and the emotions, and just reminding ourselves that what we're looking for really starts from within.
Mhm.
And Kelly, like you said, we're so busy looking for the void. We feel the void because the void is so powerful.
Oh,
That
for sure.
hollow feeling is so deep that we ignore the fact that we are surrounded by love.
Yeah.
That person that walked by us on the street, that was love. If we had just stopped for a moment and said, "Hi, how are you?" They may have said, "Go kick rocks," or they said, "Hey, how you doing?" That's an act of love.
Yeah.
That acknowledgement. And so looking for that moment, that stillness within ourselves, that balancing our own heart first, to kind of making sure that we're not focused on the lack, the scarcity mindset, and making sure we're coming from the abundance of love. And that starts with yourself.
Yeah. Seems kind of similar to the conversation we were having backstage. That's right, friends. See?
Yep.
That's why the ringing was happening in my ear, Adrian. Spirit was like, pay attention, Kelly. This is going to be for you too.
Yeah.
I put Linda's comment up on the screen because it reminded me very much of myself. And I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm just going to use me as an example to express my thought, and then hopefully give you something that might help counteract if you are feeling this kind of vibe too. So when the anxiety was diagnosed, and, I sort of became a hostage to my fears by my own hands, I didn't really like myself a whole lot. And, I wouldn't look in the mirror. I wouldn't get dressed. I wouldn't have a shower. I just kind of sat there, negative and pissy and angry at everybody. Why did this happen to me? My life sucks. Blah, 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 blah. I started doing mirror work. Mirror work, before I realized it was a thing, was the thing that I did to help me with my panic attacks. It was not meant to boost my self-image or my self-confidence or anything like that. Over the course of time, it became a tool that I used. And I read a quote that Meghan Markle wrote, and I don't remember exactly verbatim how it's written, but it goes something like this. And that is that if you just think about how you treat your best friend, how good you treat your best friend, right? You want to boost them up. You tell them that you love them and that they're the best and that they're like awesome. Why don't we treat ourselves like we treat our best friends? And I remember applying that thought pattern to my mirror work and saying that when I look at the mirror, I'm not looking at Kelly. I'm looking at Kelly's reflection. And there's almost like two of us then, right? There's me looking at the person in the mirror, and I treat that person as if I'm talking to my best friend. And that helped me get out of my head about my own biases about myself. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
In a way, yeah. Yeah.
I was kinder to myself because I treated myself as if I was talking to someone else. And when you look at someone else in that sort of compassionate, loving way, that kind way, when you see someone, the bird with the broken wing kind of vibe, you don't see the negative. You only see the beautiful, right? And you want to sort of bring them in and love them up a little bit, and try to come from a place of compassion and understanding. At least that's what I did, and it worked for me, because I took myself out of the equation. It was the only way that I knew how to do it, so that I wasn't able to attack myself, because that would be my natural first go-to move, right? So I don't know if that helps or not, Linda, but
I have a little bit different, just because of my training as a shaman in shamanism. Also as a trained counselor, is we absolutely need to put ourselves in there, and we get into our safety sphere. We get into our medicine wheel. We look in all directions, and we go, what programming caused me to think and believe this way? It is 100%. Because again, sometimes we look at our friends with reverence, and we don't always hold our friends accountable. Self-love is accountability. And in order to be accountable, I have to look at myself. What programming got me here? Why do I believe this? And why do I tell myself, why have I continued to allow this narrative to play in my head as long as it has?
Yeah.
And when did I give my power away to step out of that and to choose a different direction for my life? Because there is a very defined line with self-loathing. And that's, again, what my newsletter this month talks about is that accountability. Get out of that self-loathing. In order to do that, you have to be very analytical and look at yourself, look at the programming, look at the family history, look at all these things. Why do I continue to tell myself this story? Why do I continue to have these reoccurring thoughts? And then why have I not changed the timeline and said, now I choose different? And why do I continue to go back to that? Because self-loathing feels good. It feels good to continue to tell yourself that same story. My mommy made me feel this way and she didn't love me. Well, then gosh darn it, continue that self-loathing, but you're not going to see anything different. So when do you and why do you continue to do that? Why does it feel so good to continue to tell yourself that story, but yet you're so miserable at the same time? Sounds a little hypocritical now? It does. So I think it's very different. You do have to have that deep cognitive behavioral therapy. Why do I feel the feels that I feel? Oh, it's fun. Why do I feel the feels that I feel? Why do I feel the feels that I feel? And work through it. And that's the only way you can begin to work through it.
100%.
Then you can start to talk to yourself like the best friend. But you got to get to do you want to be your friend? And what behaviors make you want to be your friend? And what behaviors make you go, I think my friend needs to work on that. And and that's the only way you can be a true friend to yourself. So you can befriend others.
Kristen brings up a great point that sort of coincides for me personally about the point that you just made. And that is that I was in therapy and starting to, sort of peel back the layers, right? And try to like understand this, how I got there and what I was going to do about it and where to go from there. Do not ever underestimate the power of, a therapist or a psychologist.
That was the first sentence in my newsletter. Like, if you want to break the pattern of self-loathing, therapy. Deal with those emotions. Anybody who's all of my clients will tell you, and not just because I'm a trained therapist or trained in therapy, but because I think having that neutral third party is so important to help hold yourself accountable. And so you talk to yourself as your best friend. And how would I talk to my best friend? I go, what would my therapist say?
Yeah.
What would all the therapists I've ever worked with tell me in this moment to hold me accountable?
Yeah. I get you. And in that moment when I was there, because we all go to therapy for different reasons, right? At the time, we thought my anxiety was based on grief. It was only a year and a bit into it that we realized that the grief was like the tip of the iceberg. There was a whole bunch of other stuff underlying, but we had to keep peeling those layers back to get there. That's really interesting. Linda says, I haven't had a best friend for a long time. I have to bring back that perspective.
Linda, why aren't you your best friend? Like Kelly was just saying, why aren't you your best friend? I have the opposite problem, y'all. I like my company a little bit too much.
me.
So I have to kind of go, no, you really should. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Maybe it's okay to consider a love interest or, go hang out for a few minutes with the public. It's okay. Right. And it's not that I'm so deeply in love with it's just that, like, I have learned to be my friend. I have learned to be okay with silence. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
And being lonely. Exactly. I was just going to say that for my part in it, my tagline for that is, I'm old, set in my ways. I just know what I like. That's how I lessen the guilt. And I'm just like, I'm fine. I'm just old and set in my ways. What can I say?
And I have to
But
check that too, because I'm always like, I get very, as much as we like, I know we're saying it as joking. So like,
yeah,
y'all don't come for Kelly and I in
yeah,
thread in the chats, but like, also too, I say like, oh, I'm old and I'm set in my ways, but I'm like, no, you're not, because you're always evolving and changing and growing, and you're making it an effort to evolve and change and grow.
yeah,
So don't, and so I even stopped saying I'm old and set in my ways, because I'm like,
yeah.
oop, I'm talking, spirit will hear that. It'll stop my growth pattern. So when I say it, I'm like, I'm joking, ha ha ha. And so we're clearly joking when we say that. So don't come for us, chat or spirit, when we say we're set in our ways.
This may sound like a weird sort of segue, and I'm not trying to take us out of the moment that we're in, because I feel like these kind of conversations, spirit guides them. They just go where they need to go naturally, and I love that. But the feeling that I want to convey to people, so that we don't forget that self-love can be very beneficial. It's not really something that, and I'm not saying that it's not learned, because yes, we do have to work on it. And yes, some of us will need to learn it as if it's a new skill, or relearn it. But I want you just to think about, you've gone to the hairdresser. You wore your nastiest clothes to the hair salon because you knew you were going to be there all day. They're going to be putting chemicals all over you, and you were going to smell like, like the back of a paint shop, right? And you come walking out and you look fabulous. And you feel like you've gone on a diet, because like you've lost all this like hair, right? Because they've given you a haircut. At least in my case, I feel like I've lost 5 pounds. And you want to go somewhere. You want to you just want to strut. It's like John Travolta in that movie, not Saturday Night Live, but Staying Alive. When he struts down the road with the paint cans in his hand, you're feeling it, right? In that moment, you are loving yourself up from every angle.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how good that feels. We've all had that moment. We've all had that moment. That's the moment I want you to think about. Whenever you think that you don't deserve to love yourself up, whenever you beat yourself up, whenever you look at the mirror and think, oh, you've got a zit, your hair looks funny. I want you to think about, you walked into the hairdresser and you're just like, that's right.
Or walking out of the hairdresser, because I'm telling you, there is, when I get my hair done once a month, for a good 2 hours maybe after I leave my loctician, you can't tell me shit. I am like the baddest bee, and I am just like, I'm feeling myself. I'm done.
Right?
But I'm like, and then I'm like, and I joke about it with my loctician all the time. I'm like, I don't know how to take that moment of when she turns me around and I look at my hair and I'm like, okay, we're here.
Yeah.
And I feel good for that too. How do I keep that going?
Yeah.
How do I keep that going? And I'm starting to learn the pattern for me.
Yeah.
And for me, it's boundaries. When I uphold boundaries, my own boundaries, because we can't say we have integrity if we don't have our own boundaries and uphold our own boundaries. And so when I have started at this, thank God it's at this stage of my life and not, 62, at least it's 42, holding my own boundaries and standing up for myself.
Yeah.
And it's not arrogant. It's not boastful. It's just solid. And I'm like, that is almost as close to when my loctician spins me around in that chair and I look at my hair and I'm like, you can't tell me shiznizzle for the next 2 hours. Boundary. You're not going to talk to me this way, or I choose to not participate in this activity because of whatever. It's powerful. And I'm like, yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So sound off in the chat, guys. I'm sorry, I took over your show. I said I was going to take over your show.
Girl, go.
I was like, what is that equivalent for you guys? Kelly, that was a beautiful analogy, because most of us here, man or woman, can understand. It's that moment when you just get your hair done. You feel on top of the world. What is the next equivalent to
until you
something
go
that you can do.
until you go home or go to work, and then nobody notices, and it takes like a week and a half for
I
someone to
don't,
say like, "Did
I
you
don't
do
care. I
something
notice.
different with your?"
I notice. I'm like, oh,
That's the other
yes.
side of it, but that's a whole other show, friends. That's a whole other show. Do you know what it is for me? For
Yeah,
me, it's my animals. I mean, they are silly. They make me laugh. You know, I sit there and I'm just like, the heck is wrong with y'all? But not from a place of like anger. You know what I mean? If I allow myself to get down on the floor and laugh about it, they create these unexpected moments of joy where I feel their love sort of back towards me. It's like we're like kids in the sandbox almost. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so nice. Did you see that?
I did. Thank you, Linda.
So sweet. So sweet.
What is it? So Kelly's, mine is boundaries. Hi, Desiree. Kelly's is playing with her animals. What is it? Sound off in the chat. I saw Kristen. I hope you don't mind me calling you out. She said, I'm still figuring out my boundaries and respecting myself enough to have them. And that's the thing. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I woke up on one day, but I finally was just like, this is some Fraggle Rock. No. And I'm not perfect. There are times where I'm just like, the slidey slope slippery. You know, I get it. But having more of those moments where I should, because I'm like, I can't say I'm full of a woman of integrity when I let people walk all over me.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So how do I hold myself accountable to hold them accountable? And when I realized it's not boastful, it's not loud, I'm gonna tell you guys the best story. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it looks like. I had somebody who worked for me years and years ago, and I was getting ready to leave, and so my position was going to be open, and I really wanted this person to apply. And so we all know in corporate America, you can't just say, hey, the job is yours. If you want, you kind of have to have that indirect, hey, let's go have lunch. And then, hey, this position's about to be open. I really think you should apply. Had that conversation. She looked me dead in my eye and said, no, thank you.
Wow.
And I went, you know what? Thank you for telling me. And that was it. That's what a boundary looked like. That's what self-respect looked like. It wasn't loud. She wasn't, screw you on the horse you came in on. She just said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. And I respected her so much. And I was like, you know what? That's what that looks like. This little itty bitty tiny little thing. I'm short. She's shorter than I tower over her. Little squeaky little voice. No, thank you. And I said, that was so powerful. A grown man would have. That's what it looks like. That's what a boundary looks like. It was so powerful. I didn't counter with, well, you shouldn't. How come you turn away? It was just so, no, thank you. No, I get it. And so when I have those moments, I always think back to that moment. Adrian, how do you do your no thank you today?
Yeah.
So don't get caught
That's
up
a great
in
way
this
to put
having
it.
a boundary. I need to do that. No, it's just as simple as no thank you. And you keep it moving. And I'll be 800,000 million years old. And I will remember that moment. And we're still friends and we still talk to this day. It's been like 8-9 years. And I will bring that up every couple of years. I'm like, when you said no, thank you, you changed my life because you showed me what that type of power and respect and self-respect looks like. And thank you.
Yeah. I want people to just, take this part away, all that Adrian just said. And this little statement, my therapist told me this. Boundaries are not about other people. They're about you.
100% about you.
Right? It's not, you're not putting a boundary up to hurt someone or, because you're, hard to get along with or whatever. It's about protecting you.
It's about protecting you. That's it.
That's it. That's all. And if someone is going to be offended by it, oh well. Just saying. I love, so Johnny says, hi Johnny, by the way, I don't have any or many and forced to react instead of act first. Linda says, recovering people pleaser, learning to set boundaries, and a whole lot of self-empowering skills.
Yep.
I am also one of those people, Linda, where I genuinely am happiest when everyone around me is happy. Like that makes me feel like I just walked out of the salon. But that's also not realistic, right? And I would, and I would like throw myself into that. And that was part of the issue that I had with the people pleaser part, right?
Yeah. It is, same job, but 2 years before, I had a person that I was working with, and we were doing this like little fourth family fun circle at work one day, and he said both of our moms had died around the same time, and he said, one of the things that his mom said before she died was, son, you've been so worried about keeping the shirt on clothing everybody else. You're in the streets butt naked. You have no shirt on.
Yeah.
What do you have left? And I have, it's taken me quite many years to go, I knew she was right when you said it, when he told that story, and we're like, yeah. And it's just kind of like, no, really, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. No, I've got to make sure I've got money in my checking account first.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The first of the month is going to show up, and that mortgage is due. These bills are due. That doesn't mean I can't help others. It's just what is realistic. So Kelly, you just said, I understand seeing everybody else happy isn't realistic. It can be if you're happy too.
Exactly.
So how do I make sure that I am it's cyclical. I think of the six of cups, that giving and receiving, time, energy, information. How do we make sure that I'm in a circle where I've given to make sure they're happy, and they're going to make sure that I'm happy too.
Right.
And they may not, because that's not their responsibility. It's your responsibility. So then I have to go, how do I make myself happy? This is my mirror, by the way, my imaginary mirror.
We're learning so much tonight, friends. We're learning so much.
Keep Kristen's thing up, because there's a post that I've been meaning to put on the Instagram for a while. And I think, Kristen, this will help you. Beep, 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 beep. Yep, that's how I broke the last thing. I know. I'm standing up for myself. I'm such a bitch.
Yeah.
You're not a bitch. That's how, and that's what that's the snort we'll tell ourselves. I know, standing up for myself. I'm gonna sound like a bitch. I'm gonna be I'm a bitch. But then we will blow up, we will back out, we will do all of these things after the fact when we feel like we haven't stood up for ourselves. That's actually when you're the bitch, not when you've set the boundary up front and just said, hey, I don't feel like I was respected.
Yeah. See, I went in the reverse. Mm-hmm. So I used to say how I felt. Mm-hmm. Not like rude or, to cause a problem or, get in anyone's face. And then I would go away and stick my tail between my legs and hide in the closet and beat myself up and be like, they're going to think I'm horrible. And I don't know what anybody thought, because I convinced myself that I was all of those things because I dared to say how I felt.
Yeah.
And now I'm just, because I've reached a certain age, friends, so I'm just like, I don't want to swear, but F it. Like,
I had that moment earlier today, Kelly, where I said, you know what? Now you're too old for this. Get it off your chest. Say it. Give them the moment to clean it up. You clean it up. And then, and uh, you know what? I've got our mantra. Here's our mantra, Kelly.
Okay,
Ready?
I'm ready.
We're going to say this. The young children like to say standing on business. This is what the new kids say, the young.
But, I mean, okay.
Standing on business. They're going to stand on business. We need to stand on our own business. I said what I meant, and I meant what I said.
Right.
That doesn't come from a place of arrogance or ego. It comes from, I want to express myself.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. Doesn't mean I can't change my mind. Doesn't mean I can't come back later to apologize. But I said it. And that's what you have to say to yourself first.
Yeah.
So you can have the courage, the chutzpah, to even start to vocalize standing up for yourself. Stand on business.
I got a whole bunch of chutzpah, and I got all kinds of vocalization, behind me. My problem is that I'm like, oh, someone might hear me. So I'm like, did you hear what they said? Something like that. But well, I mean, I'm kind of joking. Mm-hmm. I think it comes from it's a generational thing. Mm-hmm. We know our moms were very much like, mum's the word, don't say nothing, right? What goes on behind closed doors, no one else needs to know about. Mm-hmm. You walk out, you present yourself in a certain way, and like that's all anyone's ever going to see. No one's ever going to see you have a bad day, mm-hmm. A bad attitude, nothing, right?
That's what I like about these new kids. I'm always going to call them the new kids. Okay, love it or hate it about Gen Z. They saw the generations of effed upness about that. And they're just like, no, I'm going to emote. You guys, all Elmo did a week ago was ask people if they were okay. And what was it, like 2 million people were like, no, I'm not good. Mm-hmm. That comes from people not being feeling like they're not allowed to say how they feel. And this is what I love about that new generation. They stand on their business. Like, I'm telling you how I feel, and that's messed up. Yeah. I'm not feeling great today. And they're making mental health such a focus. And that's self-love. That is the epitome of self-love. Is I'm going to make sure my mental health, y'all's mental health, our mental health is good. Yeah. And I love that for them.
It is quite a contrast, right? It is quite a contrast from where I came from, like my generation. It's quite a contrast, and I still have difficulty navigating it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm not sure when it's okay to say, I'm fine, thank you. And, you know what I mean?
Like we did earlier, chat.
Yeah, to certain people.
Yeah, and it's
just to certain people. Like if I know the person and I know it's okay, and that I'm in sort of like a loving connection, then it's okay I'll just be me. But when I don't know, I'm kind of like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to like fill it out because if people don't know you, sometimes they're kind of like, oh, that was weird. You know what I mean?
I think this comes from like my life of corporate America and my ability to compartmentalize. If we text, like on my personal phone, I'm going to be able to tell you, I'm going to tell you, I'm not doing well. But if you don't have my personal phone number, that means you don't have access to me, which means you get I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We used to get mad at my mom. This is such a funny story. We used to get mad at our mom all the time because she would talk to us in her business voice, right? And we'd be like, Mom, my sister just sent me the funniest text ever. I don't know why this, to me, has something to do with what we're talking about. I'm sure it doesn't, but it's a funny story, so I'll tell it to you anyway. My sister sent me a text last night, like a link to Instagram, where this woman is on the phone and she's mouthing words and snapping her fingers all over the place. And I was like, oh my God, laugh out loud. All that's missing is get me a beer. My mother, God love her, would never put someone on hold, ever. Okay. Like she thought it was the ultimate rudeness if you were put on hold. And we're like, we have call waiting, like you're on hold. And then of course we'd forget to like even pick up the other line again and say sorry, right? We'd be on there for an hour. But anyway, so when my grandmother would call, which was Sunday nights after 6 because it was, cheaper in
Mhm.
Canada to call long distance after 6 p.m. on Sunday nights. Anyways, my mom would start with the whole, she'd be writing, give me smoke, bring me beer. And that's when we would be, like, can I have $5? Like, can we go out? That's when we would do all that. It was like a whole game that we had. The point is that she had no problem putting anybody on hold except for just a few people. Because she believed that they would frown upon her for doing that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like almost like she thought that they would feel like she was being disrespectful to them.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, and I get that. And it's funny that I am now as old as I am. Not that I'm just saying, but now I see what she means. Now I get it. When I was younger, I didn't get it. Now I get it.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting to the point that you just brought up about, and you're right. The Gen Z, they just do. They just say it. And they make no apologies for it. Right. I can't quite do that yet, but I'm more there than I am where I used to be, which is lovely.
I love about that being aware of the pattern and where that came from, and that self-exploration that you did, and seeing how that impacts your life now, and that willingness to go, but is it mine to fix? Do I need to fix it? And if so, what are the steps I need to take next? And I think that's all Kelly and I are trying to say today. That's what self-love is. That's that exploration of how did I get here? Where am I now? And what steps do I want to take to move forward?
Yeah. I'm just punching up a bunch of these comments here as we go along. I want to read another line from Jane Austen, because I'm all in that vibe, friends. I'm so in the vibe. From the book Northanger Abbey, she says, and I'm not even going to try to pretend to have an English accent because I'm so terrible with accents. But anyhow, imagine, if you will, Jane Austen saying this. I have no notion of loving people by halves, not half, but halves, which would be the English way of saying half, right? Now, apply that to yourself. That you have no notion of loving yourself by half. And why would you? I mean, when you say that out loud, does that even make sense? Does that even register? Like that's an actual thing that people do? But we know we do it.
Yeah.
Because we give to so many others and put ourselves last on the list, right? So many of us think self-love and self-care and, is selfish. And it is the complete opposite.
Yep.
I think to not love yourself is selfish.
I was about to say what's selfish is going out, giving to everybody else and not giving to yourself, because then you have to go, well, why are you doing that? What's your motivation for doing that? That's crazy. And that's where I had to stop. That's what I had to start asking myself. You're actually being selfish. You're not giving everybody everything. You're giving them fragments of what you think they just want and not what they actually want. They may not even want what you're trying to give them, but yet you're killing yourself to do it. Why? That's crazy. Yep. Step back.
Well, that reminds me of something else. Now, I'm not sure if Johnny is still here or not. Johnny has a show, everybody, at 8 o'clock, if anybody's interested.
We're on Judgment's channel tonight. Oh, excuse me. Apparently, I need to go to bed. It's 8 o'clock.
And good night. Sorry, Jen Lynn's channel, right? Or no, Becca's channel?
No, I think it's Jen Lynn's channel tonight.
It's either Becca's channel or Jen Lynn's channel, friends. Anyway, had a celebration, and I can't remember what celebration it was. I believe it was my birthday, where I invited a whole bunch of my YouTube friends and family to join me on the screen. And I kept saying, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate everyone being here. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I meant it. I was sincere. And Johnny said, I have something to say. And I want you to take this as a criticism. I want you to think about this. And I was like, okay. And he said, you keep saying thank you for being here. He's like, we're here not because you invited us, but because we want to be here.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need to have more confidence and more faith that the people that are around us have made a conscious choice to be around us, right? That they're not there because they're getting something from it other than your love and your friendship, you know? And that, if we can look at it that way, that could help increase your level of self-love. The understanding, right? The understanding that, like, Adrian came here not just because I invited her, because she was like, you know, I mean, she's tired, right? She has a whole a whole week of work ahead of her, and she was like, yeah, okay, I want to hang out with Kelly.
Oh, cool. What's up? Let's do it. I want to be there.
Yeah.
That's simple.
So I like that. Sometimes I am overly nice in order to avoid offense. It comes from fear of being excluded or rejected. Yep. Mm-hmm. Excellent point, Kristen.
And then ask ourselves, why are we afraid to be rejected? Where does that fear of rejection come from? Why is it there? And because clearly we may be rejecting ourselves first. Because if we didn't reject ourselves first, we wouldn't be afraid that others would reject us. We wouldn't care if others would reject us. And let's also think about it too. Don't beg for a place at a table where they've already told you it's full. Jesus sat down, broke bread with a whole bunch of people who stabbed him in the throat back. I don't know the Bible, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of how that went. I just know for every 12, there's a Judas.
Hey, don't look at me.
I'm just saying we got to ask ourselves. I'm saying that, Kristen, because I used to be that way. But somewhere around 37, I started going, oh, thank God I wasn't invited to that, because I'm like, I don't need to be at that table. I was trying to be nice because I didn't want to be rejected. That's more of their reflection, not mine.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to rewire your brain to think. And it's a lot. So I feel, and I feel you, Kristen. I saw that and I was like, and I'm so grateful that you're seeing it too. That comes from that fear of being excluded and rejected. And I came to a point where I was like, actually, that was spirit protecting me from being around people who were going to lower my vibration.
True that, my friend. I think my whole entire life, growing up, I was, or so it seems on the other side of it, that I was quite often the person that people came to for help, that people would come to talk to. I know, friends, I talk a lot. Trust me, I can be quiet and listen. I'm a good friend. Don't question it. But I was that person for a lot of people. I'm also very calm, believe it or not. Prior to the anxiety, I'm also very calm in like an emergency situation. So if something was wrong, if something happened, people would call Kelly. Kelly will know what to do.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it. I just did it. I mean, because that was sort of the role that I was playing. And so that's what I did. And about 3 years into the anxiety sort of journey and sort of dealing with that and navigating the ups and downs of that, there was a situation that occurred in the family, and one of my family members was in a nursing home, and it was said to me that, you know, how come you're not there? Why are you not here? You need to be more supportive. Your mother would be disappointed in you.
Wow.
I think that is one of the very first times that I ever stood up for myself and said, hey, now, hold on just a cotton picking minute.
Good for you.
Who do you think you're talking to?
Yeah.
Now, my reasons for not going there was because the hospital brought up bad memories for me. It had nothing to do with the person or that I didn't care or whatever. But the fact that those people forgot, this is how my mind worked, that they forgot how many times I did show up and only chose to focus on the one time that I didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt me, but to a level where there was like a shift in my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately stood up for myself without any forethought. Like there was no like, oh, I need to deal with this. It was just like, boom.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know what? It's totally okay that I step away from that role.
Yes.
Because I don't need to be in that role in order to feel important or accepted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and also not to feel rejected because I'm not in that role. Like, oh, how come they went to Adrian? They didn't come to me. Like, oh, they don't like me anymore. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What you did was you shed that archetype of the martyrdom.
Yeah.
You also looked and analyzed what friendships were transactional versus long lasting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really significant moment in my life, and it came at a time when I think the reason that it was so significant is because it happened at a time when I wasn't feeling particularly strong, or that I had like a solid foundation to sort of operate from, and so it is a moment that I remember, and we've all moved on from it, but I'm just saying, every once in a while, these things will happen to you, and they really shouldn't be sort of pushed off to the side, because those are moments of profound growth, even though they may not feel profound. But when those moments happen, you know what, friends, celebrate the bejeebers out of them, because that's another tick that you've just sort of checked off of your own personal honey-do list in learning to have that love for yourself and that self-acceptance, right?
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
It was, yeah. You know what? Y'all show up then, damn it.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And you'll know too, because I've had the not later in life, but like I've had the inverse where I have been yelled at, why did you show up? We know you've got XYZ element of P. Go home.
Yeah.
You need to sit this one out.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to call you an Uber so you go the hell home and you get some rest. And if I see you again, pop your head up. And I'm going to yell at you because you need to sit this out and rest.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that, Adrian, because there's a funny footnote to my story. Many years later, like 5, 6, 7 years later, that same family member was still in the nursing home, but now they were facing transitioning. And I got a phone call from a phone call from a phone call, this is a family member, right?
Yeah.
My aunt, actually, telling me that my aunt, was possibly going to transition. And there was no thinking. I got my car. I was there. And when I walked into the hospital, everyone was like, oh, what are you doing here? And I was like, okay, make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that is, friends? That's because I was doing Kelly, not what was expected of Kelly.
Kelly stood on business. Business.
When you become like very robotic about what you do, and I don't mean that it comes from a bad place, but sometimes that's the role that you are now filling. And some people can't see past it. And I'm not saying that it comes from a bad place. I just I needed to show those people that wasn't my role anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Isn't it funny, friends, how life works? Isn't that funny?
I love growth. Even on and let's do this. I like to end on this where I think about as crappy as some days are.
Mm-hmm.
I go, you know what though? I got to this hurt, this pain was awful. There's no sense as to why it happened because, Johnny said this so well. Sometimes crap happens. It is not necessarily for you to learn from it. But let's not toxic positivity ourselves. But the choice to go, is there something I can learn? What is this doing for me? Is so empowering and taking that power back if you can, because there's sometimes somebody died. There's shit you can take from it. Oops, sorry, Kelly's cursed. But how do we do that? And how many growth moments do we have? Because it's been 60 something days and I still can't call my friend Jody.
Yes.
As much as I want to. So,
that was,
how do we take these moments and just, live through them and be that choice to be grateful because you get to start again the next day. So your self-love is, I may not be where I want to be right now, but if I'm able to wake up tomorrow, then another day where I can continue to practice it. Sorry for getting verklempt.
No, not at all, because I was actually thinking, what would Jody say right now? And I don't profess to know Jody well enough to know what she would say, but I certainly know that she would come back with something profound, probably a smile and a little bit of a chuckle. Like I said, Adrian and Jody were the very greatest of friends.
Talked every day.
I did not know her well at all, but I tell you, that lady came to my show and I told everybody I knew about her because I was fantastically amazed by her bio that she sent me when we were talking about doing a collaboration. We chatted backstage for hours. We just had the very best time ever, and I actually reached out to her to invite her back to the channel just before she went in the hospital. I just kept telling her, like, you are the coolest lady ever. I loved her energy. People like that, I want to be like a magnet and sort of stick them, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I could like hook into your energy like a plug in a socket. Like, that's how vibrant she was to me. But using Jody as a mechanism for a message, and this is another thing that my therapist told me, whenever a sad memory like that comes in, to think about, 2 or 3 or 4 or however many you need positive memories of that same person, and get as detailed as possible about those memories. And that's when you can lose yourself in the details and think about the happiness of the memory as opposed to the loss of the person. Just as a footnote. And I often think about, like, what would my mom do? What would my mom say? Yeah. I know what my mom would say. I can't repeat it on YouTube. Just I really can't. But that's what my mom would say. And I'd be totally okay with it. I don't know about you guys. My mom was really funny if she swore. My mom didn't swear a whole lot, but when she did, we always laughed at her, which probably isn't really funny to say, but it just was so out of character for her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 4-year-old swears.
My mother swore like a sailor.
Oh, really?
Drunken sailor on leave, even. But they would look at me like, you've got such a mouth. Remember that commercial from the 80s where the kid was like, the dad was smoking dope and the dad found the kid some pot? And his dad was like, explain this to me. And the kid's like, from you, all right? I learned it from watching you. That's what I would tell my mom. She was like, why? Your mouth is so dirty. I learned it from watching you.
So I want to leave here tonight. I've got these wonderful little cards here. They're called Chakra Love. It's just a little wee mini deck. And I've been sitting here playing with them all night long. They're really, really cool. Look, they have all these beautiful colors on the backs. Yes. So they have a chakra, they have crystals, and they have a message on them. So let's just pull one. And I want to say to you that if you are feeling low, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling lost, to look at your reflection in the mirror and talk to your reflection like your best friend is having a conversation with you. Put your hands over your heart and let yourself feel that, right? It's called self-comforting or self-soothing. And I just want to say that when spirit helps the conversation, look at how happy I am right now. Because I love what I just got. Look at that, friends. We have got the chakra balance card, and it says, all things work best in conjunction with all things.
Yep.
All things work in conjunction with all things. You know, it's about alignment, right? And you get one thing in balance, and all of a sudden it's not as difficult of a challenge as it was prior to that one thing, because then the next thing just sort of comes right into play, right? It just starts to all fall into place, like when the dominoes start going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They mention all the crystals here. This card is for equilibrium, which is, you know, getting yourself all aligned.
Yeah.
So clear quartz, amethyst, lapis lazuli, which I can't say properly, but there you have it.
You got it. Close enough. You were good.
Jade, citrine, carnelian, and smoky quartz.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's bedtime. Apparently. Good night. When you're saying that balance, you know, you can't always when I explain the chakra system, I think of it as like driving your car, and you can't have, if one of those tires is low or flat, you're not going to get the best gas mileage. So make sure all those tires are balanced and rotated and they all have enough air. If it's too much air, you hit a road bump, or speed bump, you're going to fly into orbit. But if it's too low, you're not going to get optimal gas mileage. So
true that.
Make sure you're balanced out as much as you can.
And take $1 with you, because I don't know about you all, but here in Canada, it costs you money to put air in your tires. So
remember it used to be free?
Yes, unfortunately, I remember when you used to roll into the gas station and roll over that rubber thing that went ding ding, and they came out and did it for you. That's how old I am.
I remember that. It was oh my God! Oh. Disrespectful, sleepy. Don't disrespect me on this live stream. Kelly, did you pull a card too, or do you want to leave it with your message?
No, go for it. I'd love it if you would pull a card.
I did. I pulled. Okay. Well, there we go. Love, you guys. To balance your heart chakra, you've got, please, for the love of God. Didn't mean to do that. It was funny. For the love of everything holy. The first person you say I love you to every day is yourself. For the next 65, I think we're at almost 290 something days of the rest of the year. Before you say I love you to somebody else, say I love you to you first. See how that doesn't change your life. Because you'll learn saying I love you to you first doesn't diminish the love that you have for somebody else. Matter of fact, it just makes it fuller. So
absolutely.
When you say I love you to your partner, say I love you to yourself, and then say I love you to your partner. Before you say I love you to your kids, good night, say I love me. I love you, kids, good night. Say you love you to you first.
That's a great card.
That's it. This was fantastic, ma'am. Congratulations. 2 years. You're still doing your thing. You're still inspiring people. You're still helping people. And that is such a blessing. So thank you for the work that you do, Kelly.
Thank you for being here, my friend.
Of course.
Adrian, Sharon Sipe has been kind enough to put all of your links into the chat.
Yep.
If you want to find Adrian, order some stuff from her website, book a reading, all of those good things. The description is in the description box, or how to get her is in the address is in the description box. I always screw that up. Y'all know what I mean. You know where to go. You know where to find it.
On it. You know, you said what you meant and you meant what you said. Boom.
And do you have anything coming up that you want to tell people about? You said about the newsletter.
Go to my website to get the newsletter because that comes out like often. Join my Patreon because I cuss a whole lot more and I'm a lot more free on the Patreon to say what I want to say the things I want to say. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still here on the YouTubes. It's just, you know, doing life and doing the YouTube. So thank you guys for who are still following and keeping up. I throw stuff out there often. Just to, you know, keep us rocking and socking. But I just want all of you, I mean it, say you love you to you first.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, thank you, Adrian, for being here tonight. I really, 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 really appreciate you, my friend, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for being... Oh, it's fine. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for hanging out with us. Don't forget to do all those YouTubey things that are so important to the channels.
Like and subscribe to Kelly's channel, please, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, you know, check out the Daily Dozen readings. They're on every day, and watch out for that Jane Austen Valentine's Day special. It is such an awesome, awesome reading. You know, when you do a really good reading, you just you feel it. I literally felt it.
I don't do good readings.
Oh, stop.
So I don't feel like I have those moments, but you do, because I email you and I'm like, you did that on that one.
Yes, you did email me. Yes, you did.
So yes,
which was very, very nice. All right, friends, we're going to leave you with this lovely quote from Paisley. Love, letting our visions evolve, and joy, journey of yin yang. Love absolutely. That. Yes. Hi, Anna Banana. You can watch it back on replay. I'm sorry that you slept through, but it's good to see you, my friend. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great week. Happy Valentine's Day. Love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself. That's it for me. How about for you?
That's it. Love yourself. Love you guys. And Kelly, I love you. Thank you for being beautiful.
I love you.
Nice.
Just big hug. All right, friends, have a great week, and we will see you when we see you next. And until then, I wish you many blessings.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.